Cool. I believe we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Akash office hours. I am stoked that you guys are here. My name is Adam Wozni, and I head up community here at Akash. I'm also going to be your host for today's conversation. So, today we'll be following up on our recent monthly update, which you guys might have seen posted today in our blog, giving you some intel on our upcoming Testnet 3 and introducing you to Archway, an incentivized smart contract chain for Cosmos. Our guests for today's conversation are Eric Zitlow, Director of Developer Relations here at Akash, very familiar to many of you out there, and Mike Cullinan. I never said to say your last name before. He's a core contributor here at Archway. So today's agenda is pretty straightforward. We're going to introduce our guests. We're going to give brief overviews of both Akash and Archway. We'll cover a few recent Akash updates that are from our blog, and I'll ask some questions to kick off our conversation. After that all wraps up, I will hand it to you guys at home for your questions. So if you do have questions, put them in the comment section, and we'll do our best to get to as many of them as we can before the end of our office hours. Last quick note, after this live stream is over, be sure to follow both Archway and Akash on Twitter to keep this conversation going. So before we kick off the conversation, I want to introduce our guests. So first up is Eric Zietlow, Director of Developer Relations at Akash. Many of you know him, many of you love him, a regular appearance on our office hours. But for folks who haven't met you before, Eric, I was hoping you could kind of give a quick intro to yourself and kind of what you're working on here over at Akash.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm basically the crypto enthusiast, not quite a degen from the investment standpoint, but definitely from the technology standpoint. I think I qualify. I love cool things, cool tech. It's what drives me. It's what gets me up in the morning. Anyone who's following my Twitter probably saw me post about it this week. So I come from the Web 2 world. I actually joined Akash for what they were doing with Web 3, and that was kind of my big intro into crypto and the crypto space. I had some Ethereum and stuff in the past, but that was about the limit of crypto experience. This really was kind of my first foray into it. So really cool stuff here. Just the way we're building the future just gets me excited.
Yeah. You mentioned you're really into tech, which makes me kind of surprised that you haven't been to an ETH Denver event yet, which is coming up in 2 weeks. Akash will be there. Archway will be there. I think a bunch of other projects are going to be there. So I was kind of curious, what are some of the things you're looking forward to checking out while you're at ETH Denver?
Yeah, so a good source told me that it's the best place to meet builders, and that's kind of what I'm hoping to do. I'm going to be on the floor, walking around, meeting people. There might even be some AKT for people who want to try and deploy stuff. We'll see if that actually works out. And then I just want to have good conversations, learn what people are doing, see how I can help them, and hopefully connect some dots along the way that make everyone successful.
Very cool. Cool. Thanks for that. Next up, we have a very special guest, Mike Cullinan, core contributor at Archway. So I was hoping you could kind of give the folks at home listening in a little bit more about you, kind of what you're doing over at Archway, and maybe even how you got into the kind of the crypto space.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Adam. And first off, thanks guys for having me. I genuinely appreciate it. Massive fan of Akash, so it's a total honor to be joining y'all. But yes, my name is Mike. I am a core contributor on Archway, as Adam had mentioned. My journey kind of started on the traditional tech side, not unlike Eric. Wasn't all that fulfilling for me. I was kind of itching for something with a little bit more of a purpose behind it. And so kind of over the course of 2017, I was tickled by the possibilities of blockchain, kind of got bit by the old crypto bug, and at the end of 2017, jumped into the space full time, joined a project called Loom just as they were starting up. We were building some of the early L2s and scaling solutions for Ethereum, doing some developer education tools. If anybody's familiar with crypto zombies, brought many engineers into the space and trained them up on Solidity and smart contracts and all sorts of fun stuff. And we were building some dApps as well. Loom was a little bit early. The market wasn't quite there back in 2018, 2019. Though while there, I did have the opportunity to put on possibly the most legendary hackathon of all time with none other than Mr. Adam Wozni here. but also, during my tenure there at Loom was one of the first Tendermint-based chains to go live way back in 2018, and so I had been following and interacting with the Cosmos space for quite a while. Things were really lining up beautifully for Cosmos. Early 2021, I guess about a year ago, as IBC went live, the grand vision really started to become a reality, and getting to see and experience IBC at scale and interact with products like Osmosis was pretty magical. And yeah, I was just really excited about Cosmos. Lucky enough, I was able to reconnect with the Tendermint team, who was incubating Archway. The concept immediately clicked for me, which I think we'll expand on in a little bit. But yeah, that's more or less my journey, how I found my way to the space and chatting here with you fine folks.
Well, you don't know me well enough to call me a fine folk, but I'll take it. I'll take it. No, I thanks for that. And yeah, that hackathon that we ran back in the day a couple of years ago, I remember, pretty epic. It's funny though, you've been in the space for a while, but alongside Eric, this is your first ETH Denver as well, correct?
It is, yes, after many years.
Well, what are some of the things you're looking forward to seeing while we're at ETH Denver?
I'm keen to catch up with familiar faces. I think those folks from the early days, that was really nice with Lisbon after we've all been shacked up and in quasi quarantine for the past 2 years. It was a real delight to get to interact face to face, human to human again, in real life. And so yeah, really looking forward to seeing old familiar faces, catching up with the folks that have been Zooming with for the past 2 years, and getting to connect with new builders like Erica had mentioned.
Very cool. Well, thank you guys for those introductions. But we're not here to talk about ETH Denver. It's exciting, but that's not why we're here. So I thought a good kind of jump off point would be kind of asking you guys a few questions to kind of prime some of the audience members to see some things they might be interested in hearing about. So to kind of kick that off, I wanted to go right to Eric. So I was hoping that maybe you could cover a few of the interesting tidbits from our recent January product update here at Akash, and then maybe even cover some of the cool stuff that we have planned for Testnet 3.
For sure. Well, I think the most exciting thing for anyone who's on the Akash network is the way deployments have spiked. We recently announced a partnership with the Chia plotting community, and they basically came in force and just started consuming resources. I think we've almost tripled the amount of deployments on the network at this point, which is just amazing. I know there are some other mining communities that are itching to get involved as well, so that's just going to be a huge uptick of resource consumption. So if you're looking to become a provider on Akash, now is about the perfect time. Get in while the iron's hot, strike while the iron's hot. So as for Testnet, Testnet is coming up. We've got a whole lot of really cool stuff there. Some of the community members who have been really big contributors to the project have actually already gotten to play with it a little bit. Kind of get an early view into what Testnet's going to be, but there's a lot of cool features. Stay tuned. It is an incentivized testnet, so get your hacking teams together. Come on out, actually run the challenges and earn a little AKT in the process.
Yeah, I wish I could kind of show the insider's look for folks listening in on to the engineering team, the developer relations team, to an extent the marketing team that I'm a part of here at Akash, kind of thinking about all the fun stuff that we're doing for this upcoming testnet. I put it up here a second ago, but I'll put it up again. If you guys are interested in learning more about Akash Testnet 3, just go over to the website and /testnet, and you can learn a little bit more about what we have planned for you guys. But we'll cover that in a little bit. I wanted to kind of give a quick kind of product update from the Akash side, but now I want to go to some questions. So first off, I want to go to Michael. And I really want to give some people a little bit of insider info on Archway. It's a newer project. Well, actually, I don't know how new it is. I would love to hear a little bit more about, what Archway is, what Archway hopes to accomplish, and then maybe even cover some of the things or ways that folks listening can get involved.
Absolutely, yeah. So Archway is a new incentivized smart contract chain for Cosmos. It's something that we've incubated from within the Tendermint team. The idea is for those folks where it doesn't necessarily make sense to spin up your own independent chain. Archway is an open shared chain where you can quickly deploy contracts and apps or dApps and then plug directly into the broader Cosmos ecosystem via IBC. It's sort of, you can think of it as kind of an on-ramp into Cosmos without having to run your own chain. Instead, you deploy to an existing one. And there's a slight but very, very important twist to Archway. We've modified the economic model, so developer incentives are baked directly into the protocol itself, similar to how validators get rewarded in your typical proof of stake network. Right there, they're verifying transactions, they're producing new blocks, and in exchange, they receive transaction fees and inflation rewards for those critical services that they're providing. And so we believe that developers are also critical network participants, which I don't think is a really controversial view, or anybody would really dispute that. But as such, they should be rewarded for the value that they're contributing to the underlying network. And so what Archway does is redirect a portion of those protocol level rewards straight back to developers. And so as dApps are bringing value to the underlying network, as they generate usage, they get a cut of the gas fees, they get a proportional share of the inflation, and we have a third reward source called contract premiums. And so yeah, the idea really came from looking at the smart contract landscape and other L1s out there, and seeing that as a developer, when you're building a successful dApp, you're bringing users, you're bringing assets, transaction activity, you're contributing all this value to the underlying network, but you typically don't necessarily capture much of that. It usually flows to investors and whales and the like. And you would need to personally buy into that network's underlying token in order to get some exposure. And so so yeah, the idea is to basically funnel the rewards straight back to developers so they can tap into these recurring funding streams, and so they can get kind of an automatic stake within the network and share in any success or upside that the network might have that they're helping with. And so that also opens up some pretty interesting possibilities in terms of what you can build. Archway is a general purpose smart contract platform. It's CosmWasm based, and so you can build any type of dApp really. But where it gets really interesting and where kind of the new use cases emerge is with the dApp rewards. And so the way it works on Archway, when you deploy a new contract as a developer, you define what we call an owner address. And that's where all of the fees and all the rewards will automatically be deposited to. And then from there, it's entirely up to the developer and or their community to choose how they want to use those rewards and where they want to allocate them to, which opens some cool possibilities. You know, if you have a governance token, you could redirect those rewards back to your token holders as kind of an extra little perk. You could use them just to fund your core development team. You could contribute them to a community DAO. You could recycle all of those rewards straight back into sponsoring gas payments for your end users. We've heard folks exploring ways to seed or boost liquidity incentives, and doing it on kind of a continual basis, given it's at the protocol level. So yeah, all sorts of cool possibilities. We in terms of where we're at, we've shipped the first few test nets with all the core functionality and that rewards calculation and distribution. We've got our dApp CLI that's been released, which is what folks are using to actually start building out dApps and CosmWasm contracts. We're doing a ton of work around the dev experience docs, putting out dApp templates, front end examples, tons of tooling in and around that. And we too are also launching an incentivized testnet imminently. I suspect we may be announcing it tomorrow, possibly Thursday. But yes, this will be an interesting opportunity for folks to get involved firsthand, help kick the tires on the network, test out some of the features and incentive, and also just to help grow the ecosystem. We took some inspiration from some of Akash's past testnets, in that the competitive challenges that we're designing aren't just for validators, but we'll have some some kind of bounties for dApp developers and folks in the community that are putting together some content. And yeah, that's the gist.
Oops, I unmuted myself, or I muted myself. Sorry. Thank you for that, Mike. I have a handful of questions, and I'm sure folks listening in do as well. And we'll get to those. But I did want to kick off kind of my Q&A portion before we open it up to the audience. And by the way, folks listening in, if you do have questions, just leave it in the comment section, and we'll get to as many of them as we can at the end of our chat. But first up, I want to go to Eric. Going back to kind of what we were just covering about the recent blog post, the one we launched today or announced today. So as you mentioned, Akash network deployments have doubled in the past month. Pretty exciting stuff, especially in this kind of interesting time in the crypto space. So my kind of question is, how can Akash kind of support that doubling of deployments within a month? What can folks at home do to support this kind of network growth?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So, I mean, the first things first. How can we support it? Well, by spinning up more infrastructure, right? We're a provider. We're a participant on the network. There are a lot of other providers and participants on the network. Every single provider has the ability to add infrastructure to their offerings. So, what are the ways we here at Akash, the corporate entity, try to contribute to the community is by helping with these demand spikes, just spinning up more metal. We have a lot of really, really good resources to do that. So it's it helps to smooth out that curve a little bit. But then from the other side of things, if you want to be a provider on Akash and you have some infrastructure, if you have some data center space that's being underutilized, or even some cloud server space on like Amazon or another provider, feel free to post it. You can actually put that on Akash. You can run the Akash executable. And all it is really underneath the hood, for anyone who's technical here, it's just a Kubernetes cluster with this, Akash layer on top, and it just runs. So highly recommend you check it out. Like I said earlier, today, right now, with all of these miners coming on board, is about the best time you could possibly stand up a provider. Leases are coming in like crazy. Actually, leases are coming in so fast that the network is routinely hitting max capacity, and we're having to increase stuff. So it's like the perfect problem to have, because it means utilization is there, proof of concept is there. This is product validation. This is basically the validation that any product wants to have. People need what we're offering, so it's a really good problem.
Yeah, especially I think it's great to see deployments just double in this month, especially like I said, during this kind of interesting time in the crypto space. So yeah, I think it's a fantastic problem to have. And I do have one more, maybe kind of in quotes dumb question for you, Eric, before we hand it over, or I ask some questions for Mike here. So as mentioned, AKT spend on the network reached all-time highs this month. Does that mean that it costs more to deploy onto the Akash network?
Not really, no. So the AKT spend is just the amount transacted for deployment. So it makes sense that when you see a spike in deployment, you'd also see a spike in spend, because more tokens are basically traveling, right? So no, it doesn't make anything more expensive. One of the cool things though is that investors and people who are interested in more of like the economic side of the AKT token, one of the things they look at is utilization, and the actual price of the token can, in some cases, not speculating which direction it's going, but it can be affected by how the network is utilized. So I'm not going to go too much deeper into that, because I'm not one for speculating. I like to just understand the mechanics of this, but no, it doesn't increase the actual cost of a deployment. It's, if it was 1 AKT yesterday on a particular provider, unless that provider went and manually changed their pricing, it's going to be 1 AKT tomorrow as well.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah, I just wanted to ask the dumb questions for folks listening in like myself. We're all learning alongside each other, right, guys? Cool. So I want to hand it over to Mike now. I got a handful of questions for you. As a reminder, it looks like we're getting kind of people jumping in and out of the live stream. If you do have questions about Archway or about Akash, about the recent updates, about Testnet, put them in the comment section, and we'll do our best to get to as many of them once I'm done with my questions. So, Mike, Now the tough ones for you. No, I'm just kidding. So kind of covering Archway. So isn't Cosmos supposed to be all about app-specific chains? So like, why build a shared smart contract chain?
Right, right. So the vision, the broad vision of Cosmos is this world of millions of application specific chains that are all connected, and we're getting there. But the reality is, not every project or developer wants their own chain just yet. There's a lot of amazing work being done to lower some of the technical barriers to running your own chain. There's within Tendermint here. There's a tool called Starport, which basically gives you all the scaffolding to spin up your own chain in like 5 minutes. Literally, you're up and running. There's big initiatives like interchain security that are on the way. That's going to help people bootstrap chains without needing to go and recruit their own independent validator set and enough capital to secure the network. So there's a number of solutions that are on the way, but even still, many developers just want to quickly deploy an app and or just focus on the application and kind of the user experience of that. And so I think we'll probably see a mix of some standalone chains, some shared smart contract chains, and they'll coexist, and everything will be interconnected via IBC. Where Archway fits into that is, we see it as another option, another place for developers to build and deploy. Ultimately, it's about bringing more developers, more users, more assets into the Cosmos ecosystem, and yeah, it's so in that sense, it's kind of this launch pad into Cosmos, and a quicker path to deploying, and hopefully the incentive model layered on top helps grease the wheels with attracting those developers and those users.
Right. I think it's really interesting. And I want you to take out a crystal ball. So let's take out our imaginary crystal balls. We all have the crystal ball. Everyone at home, you have your crystal ball. I wanted to ask you, how do you think Archway might change how developers approach designing and building dApps?
I think the biggest thing is really, as I see it, is with the funding. It starts with the funding, and with dApp rewards, developers can access this new and recurring funding source, and I'm hoping that can help alleviate some of the early financial pressures that these projects face, and give them a little more flexibility when it comes to figuring out a business model and fundraising. Because what you typically see in the space is dApp teams wind up chasing grants from foundations, and sometimes those will work out, but oftentimes they're kind of rife with issues. Grants in general aren't a really great funding mechanism, whether it's inside of crypto or out. It's often a kind of one and done sort of a deal. They have really weak incentives around actually delivering and outcomes. They're run through a foundation typically, and so they're inefficient, and it's usually kind of an insider's game. Those who have connections to the capital have an easier time getting it, and then from the dApp team's perspective, they wind up, rather than choosing the best technology and the best community for them, they wind up just kind of being forced to go with whoever is going to give them the biggest grant, and then they're locked into that. And so, what we're trying to do with Archway by tying rewards directly into the protocol level, it's kind of an aim to harness market incentives a little more and find a tighter alignment where the rewards that developers are getting are based on the value and the impact that they're making on the network, and that's entirely open, right? Like anyone, anywhere can plug into that at any time and start earning rewards. And so it's really an open, permissionless system. Yeah. lots of other ways, but we only have so much time as well.
No worries. I have a lot of questions around grants. Akash has a grants program, so that's fighting words saying that grants programs are a little difficult sometimes.
It's not all bad.
I feel you. It's not all bad.
Me too.
No. It's all anything that helps. Kind of a rising tide lifts all boats, right, guys? So
we too will have a grants program as well. So it's got to hit them from multiple angles, but yeah.
Cool. So I'm seeing in the chat here, we are getting a couple questions. I saw someone saying it's well past midnight. So if you guys are in the chat, why don't you put in where your locations are? I'm always interested to see where people are tuning in from. I maybe have one more question or maybe two more quick questions for you guys, and then we'll open it up to some of the audience questions here. So if you do have some, now is your time to put them in the comment section, and we'll get it to Mike and Eric. So one last one about Archway specific. So do you think that Archway risks losing validators if it gives away part of their network rewards? Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that was something that had immediately come to my mind personally as we started thinking about this. But we quickly found out that there isn't much risk, and that ultimately the validators want to be active and contributing in networks where there's development activity. And so if you have two networks, one where there's no developers, but validators get 100% of those rewards, and then you have a second network where there's a really vibrant developer ecosystem, but validators get a slightly smaller relative share of those rewards, all of the validators are choosing the second network every time, no question. And so we've been working with a lot of the top Cosmos validators, and they've been really supportive and excited about the project and already started getting involved. So I would say no, not an issue. There's
good.
Generally, there's intrigue about a new incentive model.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, when you explained it to me a few months ago, I was like, I want to hear more about this. We should get you in an Akash office hours to describe this. So excited to see kind of how things are being built out. But question for both of you. Final question, unless I can think of anything else. So if you do have questions in the audience, feel free to leave them in the comment section. So Mike, Eric, what are some ways you think Archway and Akash ecosystems could collaborate? I have a lot of ideas, but you guys are the galaxy brains here. So I wanted to see your thoughts. So Eric, let's start off with you.
Yeah, so I mean, I have a few thoughts here. First off, at Akash, we're always here to support other chains. If nodes, validators, whatever need to be run, we would encourage people to come over and run them on Akash. It's just come to where your family is. Basically, we're all Web3. We all promote it. We all love it. We're all here for success. So let's all do it together. Second part is, if you're actually building some sort of a decentralized application, don't run it on a centralized surface. Just don't, because then are you really decentralized? No, probably not. So if you are trying to build a decentralized application, I would encourage you to come check out Akash. This is one of the places where anyone who's running anything smart contracts wise that actually requires compute power, we are a perfect place for that, right? There's always one thing that always gets me about the ETH ecosystem. I love Ethereum. Okay, I love the communities there. It's an awesome thing. But like, what is it? 2/3 of their infrastructure is on AWS, which to me makes absolutely no sense. Because when AWS finally decides that they're going to pull the plug on crypto, like, what's going to happen to Ethereum? Who knows? Probably nothing good. So, just anything we can do to further decentralize and work together as projects to actually improve the position, improve the durability we have in this crazy world we all live in is a good thing.
And Mike,
Eric,
go ahead.
Spot on. That's right where my mind went. Right, where at Archway, it's an ecosystem of dApp developers, and so for us, we need to find ways to make it really easy for them to deploy and migrate their backends, their front ends to Akash, and or be hosting nodes, so they can access data to and from the chain on Akash. We're also, we're building out a number of tools amongst the core teams that are contributing to Archway, the things like dashboards, explorers, docs, applications. So it's perfectly relevant for everything that we're building. And then to Eric had alluded to it in passing, but personally, one of the areas that I would be most interested in and excited by is getting validator nodes up on Akash. It's one of those more elusive and murky areas where I don't think folks quite realize just the state of centralization, even on some of the more well-known, high-profile and large-scale networks. But it's not uncommon for to have really concentrated distribution around certain validator types or geographies or cloud service providers. Again, as Eric had hit in passing, I think if you peer behind the curtain on some of the more well-known networks, you see that they're residing 50-60% on an AWS, which is good for Bezos, but not the rest of us. And so yeah, Akash is a really unique solution to offering like actual diversification of providers, both across providers as well as geographies.
Very cool. Cool. Yeah, I'm interested to see kind of how things progress at Archway and how Akash can support and vice versa. But that's kind of my questions for today. So I want to go to the audience. There's been a couple questions that have come in. One I just want to highlight. So whoever Alejandro is, I'm just going to share it. Galaxy Brains, he's pretty stoked about you guys, I can see. So thank you, Alejandro, for tuning in. But I want to ask a question from, I believe it's, I'm going to butcher this person's name, Guillaume. I apologize for that. G. We'll just call you G for short. So I think this is directed maybe at you, Eric. Will you support some Linux kernel capabilities, network admin? I think that's us he means.
Yeah. So the biggest thing is, and I see you also have another question in there that's kind of about serverless. I think I might know where you're going, so I'll try to answer as much of this as I can. Right now, what we support on the network is basically containerized workloads. So if you can spin it up in Docker, chances are really, really good you're going to be able to spin it up on Akash. We're not getting into necessarily like deep kernel stuff where you're actually going and kind of getting deep into the weeds. In fact, a lot of the networking stuff is even taken care of for you by the provider. You're just exposing ports, just kind of like a typical security rules would be. But if you think about it from like maybe an EKS or a Google Container Services standpoint, we're more equivalent with that sort of a service than like a straight VM hosting. And that's entirely fine. I mean, workloads these days, if you look at the percentages, CNCF actually did a survey. Goodness, it was probably 2016. They first released the survey, and they've done it every year since, where they talked about containerized workloads and where people are actually running their workloads. And it's like 80% of the main workloads for the group they surveyed, which obviously CNCF is going to be a little bit biased towards Kubernetes, but still 80% of the workloads were running in containers in the cloud, which is an incredibly high number. That was in 2016. It's actually gone up since then. So we're trying to basically hit the workloads where they're at. Now, from a serverless standpoint, we don't have like built-in Lambda. However, there's actually a community member who built essentially a tool that will take out a lease, run a workload, spin a lease down, very much in the same way from a external user perspective as what like Lambda operations kind of do. So pretty cool actually. But there's nothing, core built into the product that's, lease Lambda or something like that. That doesn't exist right now. That said, if it's something that someone wanted to contribute, it is an open source project. Come on in. We take PRs. Love PRs. So yeah, just really kind of boils down to trying to hit the workloads where they're at, and more to come in the future. Lots more to come in the future. We have a roadmap with a lot of cool features, including GPU support. So if you got AIML or maybe some pixel streaming or whatever you got, bring it our way. That'll be coming in the near future.
Cool. Thank you for that. And I think, you kind of answered G. And thank you, G, from tuning in from France. It's very late there. I appreciate it. I think everyone here appreciates you jumping into the chat. And I think you kind of answered his second question around Kubernetes K8s and stuff like that. So cool. I think, let's see, we have, and G from France said he'll gladly contribute on MR. So he's happy about that. Good stuff. We haven't got many more questions from the audience today. It's actually kind of a light audience. I don't know, maybe we got to switch the times up. Usually we get a lot more folks, but unless anybody else has questions that's tuning in, I think we might be able to wrap a little early. So unless something comes in before I finish my statement here, I think we might wrap it up. So last question for both of you guys. Ways to get in touch. What would you, for folks listening in, what are some things that you would like to see people kind of do to help contribute to Akash and Archway? So let's start maybe with Mike first.
Yeah, so we're ready for folks to start building, and so it's been we've just started opening the tools just at the end of last year there, and week by week, day by day, we're improving the developer experience and putting out more, like I said earlier, just improving the tooling, improving the guides, reference implementations, templates, all the good stuff. And so we've got some folks that have started building, but there's plenty more space. So please do come over, follow us, join the Discord. It's Archway HQ. Similarly, follow us on Twitter, Archway HQ. Jump into the community. We're all really nice people. Our engineers are incredibly helpful, and so come say hi, and yeah, let's build some stuff together.
Cool. I can vouch for that. They are very nice people over there. I know a handful of folks that are working over at Archway. Good folks. Cool. And then let's go to Eric. Oh, we do have one more. Oh, one more quick question. I think this is maybe for you, Eric. And then we can kind of do our wrap up. So Alejandro asks, how long will upgrades from Testnet? I think he means how long until? Yeah. I think you know the question. Yeah. So you want to restate it maybe so everyone listening in?
Yeah. So I believe the question is how long after testnet will the upgrades actually hit? So that's actually one of the cool things about crypto is there's not a set amount of time because it all goes through a voting proposal. So we don't actually control the network here at Akash. We are participants. We get to propose a vote. Once we've actually tested things out and verified that they run, we'll submit a proposal, or maybe someone in the community will beat us to the punch to actually bring those changes live and go up. So it could be as little as a week, depending. It could be 3-4 weeks, but it'll probably be pretty quick. Historically, it's been extremely fast. So it looks like there's a follow-up there. The question is more, can we expect updates on main? When can we expect updates on mainnet? When proposal? Yeah, typically very fast. I don't have a number I can throw out there though. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. That's always governance, all those things you got to work through. So appreciate the question, Alejandro. And one more final thing. Thanks to Electro Clan from joining from India. It's got to be really, really late there, or maybe really, really early. I can't tell. So appreciate you guys jumping on this office hours. So last thing is for Eric, and then we can wrap it up. So I have a feeling I know the answer to this, but for folks listening in, what are some ways they can kind of contribute to the Akash network?
Yeah. Sorry, I lost my way for a second. So what are some ways people can contribute to the Akash network? First thing is we have this testnet. Get involved with testnet. It's basically the way we can actually validate that this stuff works. Second thing is always ping me if you've got stuff around user journey, user experience, any of those sorts of things. I am basically looking to take the product from its current state and make it easier to use than the Web 2 solutions. Historically, just because we have tokens, because it's Web 3 is difficult, right? It's cutting edge. I want to help to mature this thing to something that is just a de facto. This is what you go to learn because it's easy, it works, it's the most powerful solution out there. Anyone who's willing to actually contribute insights around that, always hit me up on Twitter. I'm actually running a Twitter poll right now on what your preferred method or is for deploying, or what you actually used to deploy in the past. So go check that out at Eric Zietlow. Just always feedback is an amazing thing. And of course, like I said earlier, PRs. If you have features that you're looking at that you could contribute, please submit a PR. We love it. We can all raise this boat together. It's actually a really cool thing to work on a fully open source project. It's one of my favorite things. My last 2 jobs have been at open source companies. I don't know if I'll ever be able to go to a closed source again, just because you don't get that same sort of community and engagement and that same sort of buy-in around building something cool on a closed source project.
Very cool. Cool. And I should have known this was going to happen. Whenever I say we're wrapping things up, we're getting a handful more questions. So let's get a couple more in because we do have time. This is scheduled for an hour, so why not? We'll throw it in there. Let's go to Jane. So here we go. Let's see if this makes sense to you, Eric. Any updates on stablecoin pay for compute on Akash? I think he means like paying in, USD, USDC or USDT. Marketplace using mint burn model. So yeah, I want to see if you could cover that.
Yeah, so no updates on that. Currently, no plans. There's a number of different models. So I think this is probably in relation to like when the token spikes, suddenly deployment price spikes, right? There are a couple things we're exploring. There's actually a couple things on the roadmap to help mitigate this as well, and there is a individual feature in Testnet to help with this as well, the fractional UAKT. I don't think there's any plan that I'm aware of personally to implement a stable coin. We don't want to devalue the actual AKT token or like reduce the utility of that token, because that token is fundamental to not only the governments but to the transacting on the network, and it needs both of those things to stay strong. That said, if there was a model that was very advantageous, I think that's a discussion that should be had in the community, right? This again is an open source project. Let's get that discussion going. Let's get in Discord, start pinging people, start talking. Like, let's make it happen if that's the route this needs to go. So
cool. Thank you for that, Eric. And I think with that, we are going to wrap it up. I want to thank all of our attendees for joining today. As a reminder, I head up Community Akash. So if you guys have any questions about community-related initiatives, feel free to hit me up on Twitter or Discord or Telegram, basically all the channels and any of the channels, pretty frequently following along things there. If you have questions about Archway, check out their Twitter account, Archway HQ. If you have questions about AkashNet, feel free to tweet at us, AkashNet_, and we will do our best to get back to you in a timely manner. I want to thank our guests for joining today. I'm going to do the Brady Bunch moment here, make it a little bigger. I want to thank our guests for joining today, Eric and Michael. You guys are fantastic. Thanks all the audience members for tuning in from India to France, around the world. Go to bed or maybe wake up if it's early. I appreciate it. But with that, I want to say one final thing. If you guys are going to be attending ETH Denver, feel free to reach out to us. We're going to be hosting some meetups there. We're going to be giving some presentations. We're going to be on some panels. There's a lot of cool stuff happening at ETH Denver. So feel free to reach out to us on any of our social channels for more information. And then stay tuned. We do have some more events coming up. We're going to do a final and potentially, maybe not a final, Akashonomics Discord event. We've been hosting a couple of those on our Discord channel where we've had our CFO, Cheng Wang, jump in and talk about tokenomics, talk about AKT, talk about escrow and inflation curve, all the kind of fun, interesting financial stuff and kind of Akash stuff that you want to be following along with. So stay tuned for that. We're going to be pushing that out there. But other than that, I want to thank you guys for joining, and I guess we'll see you at the next one. See you guys later. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.